Hey everyone, I wanted to make a quick video because Neil deGrasse Tyson released a video yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I'm not positive about that. Well, also that would depend on when I post this and when you're watching it. But Neil deGrasse Tyson released a video where he said some things and I wanted to kind of address just off the top of my head, just off the cuff, because when I watched it, it kind of stirred something up in me. And so he put out a video. But if you don't know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is, he's an astrophysicist. He's done a lot in the scientific community, but he's made some very weird statements and really comes against anything religious or anything spiritual, especially Christianity. He comes against it really hard. And recently, he made this video where he was talking about gender switching, being transgender, that kind of thing, being non-binary or fluid, gender fluid. He made this video and he said some things that I want to address. He said, apparently the XY chromosomes are insufficient because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. So in other words, if you wake up and you feel more female, then that day you could act female. And if you wake up the next morning and feel more male, you could act more male. And he says that the XY chromosomes are insufficient to define our gender. Well, so that's just the first part of what he said. The problem I have with that is that's like saying, why stop at the XY chromosome? Why not any of our chromosomes? There's only a couple of chromosomes difference between us and gorillas, or between us and pigs, actually. So there's not that much genetic difference between different species, honestly. And those chromosomes are designed to actually make us who we are and to define who we are. And so what he's saying is that just because you feel something, no matter what your biology is, no matter what your makeup is, how you were born, how you were created is, if you feel that, then that's fine. So I'm just wondering, Neil, would you then say if someone wakes up and feels more gorilla that they should behave as a gorilla because maybe that chromosome isn't sufficient enough? Or whatever it is. Or if you want to talk about race, can I be transracial? Can I wake up and feel more black or feel more Asian? There's not that much difference between me and tall people. Can I wake up and say that I'm tall? I'm only 5'6", but maybe I want to identify as 6'5". I want to be like James Nixon. I think he's even taller than that. Anyways, my point is our chromosomes are sufficient. They define who we are biologically. And when we mentally don't agree with our biology, for instance, if I go around and believe that I'm tall, people would say that there's something wrong with me. And the truth is, I don't want to come out and just say, hey, listen, if you are transgender, there's something wrong. What I'm saying is there is something we need to look. It's worth it to look at what is causing you to believe that you are different than your biological makeup, as opposed to just saying, well, our biology is just not sufficient enough. I think that's a kind of a crazy statement for him to make. Then he said, the Constitution of the United States provides in it gives a provision for the pursuit of happiness. We're entitled to the pursuit of happiness under the Constitution of the United States. And that is accurate. That's an accurate statement. So he says, whatever our chromosomes, we can act however we feel. And then he says this, why do you care? What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum? And that's kind of the main thing I wanted to address. He says, hey, listen, we're all allowed to, given the constitutional right to pursue happiness, what business is it of yours if I want to be a gender that I'm not assigned at birth? Why do you care? And the answer is that the Constitution, while it does give us a provision for the pursuit of happiness, that is as long as it does not interfere with others' pursuit of happiness. Or in other words, let's say being a serial murderer brings me joy. Well, I don't have the right to go around and just kill whomever I want. So therefore, it's a right of yours. It's your business to lock up serial killers. Because just because it brings them joy, brings them happiness, does not mean that it's right. In fact, we would say, well, there's something wrong with them that they're doing this. They don't fit into society. You see, society is built on the fact that we collectively agree that there are certain things that don't change. As a scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, you should recognize that one of those things is basic science. We've agreed on basic science and say these things are true. We all have to come into agreement that we live on Earth. We call it Earth. If we don't come into agreement with that, we can't communicate well with each other. The same thing is true for biology. If you're born with male parts, you're a male. If you're born with female parts, you're a female. And if you feel differently than that, it's worth to take a look and examine and find out why. What's the cause behind it? But he says it's of no concern to you. Well, it's certainly of concern to all these women who are in women's sports that men are now competing in so that they can just win without having to really try. Or what about these guys going into women's bathrooms? You know, the amount of people who have had sexual abuse, rape in prisons because of people identifying as something else has gone off the charts. I think it is our business what you think you are. Like, it's kind of crazy. This is the basis of how civilizations are formed, that we have certain things that are defined that we say. Now, yes, if you like bluegrass music, and I do not like bluegrass music, of what business is it to me that you listen to bluegrass music in your home? Absolutely none. But that's because that's something that does not interfere with basic human rights, doesn't disagree with basic science. Like, we can't have a society where if it brings you joy to think of math in different terms than what we've agreed on and what we've defined as mathematical laws. Like, Neil deGrasse Tyson, if someone else said, I believe that 2 + 2 = 5, you as an astrophysicist start building your equations off of this, you're going to end up with the wrong place. You can't get a rocket to the moon based on math that works that way. Why would you think it works differently with biology than it does with astrophysics? So I just wanted to say, like, if you're listening to people who are giving these kind of arguments, who are saying these kind of things, they're just talking. They have how does someone with such a high IQ have no idea what you're actually talking about? So that's kind of what I want to say. And I don't mean for this to come across as harsh or judgmental, but you're making statements that are actually affecting the core of civilization. And when we believe those kind of lies, we're destroying the very civilization that we've worked hard to build. We have to come into agreement on two things to really exist and thrive as a society. And we had done that at one point. One of those is basic principles of science. Now, we struggled with that because we've had a lot of disagreements, but we understood the things that are absolutely proven. Now, we've tried to say that certain things that are theory are fact, and that's always given us kind of a headache. But in the things that are actually fully proven, when we agree upon those, it helps us function as a society, math and science. The other thing that helps us to function as a society is when we come across things like moral code. And so when we all put our belief in morality onto the same platform, we function better as a society. And for a long time, the United States was founded on and has worked towards making the biblical foundation of morality, which actually the majority of civilizations have used, as the basis of the morality from which we derive our judicial and law systems. Currently, we're trying to move away from that. And I've never seen the United States in such tension and fervor as it has ever been. In fact, the only other time we've had this has been in the late 60s and 70s, where there was a lot of that. And it was the same thing. We were trying to go, basically the sexual revolution and some things trying to pull against biblical morality. Now we're doing the same thing, and we have tension in our country at levels that are unprecedented. Well, except for Civil War. But also there, problem was trying to pull morality against the Bible, against biblical morality. So whenever we try to transition off of biblical morality to another form of morality, it's going to cause tension and problems. If we can't all be on the same page, it's not going to work. And you're out here advocating that we do not need to be on the same page. That's ridiculous. I'm done.